So let us start afresh. So let us start. So now today we shall discuss about the relationship between here activation energy, okay, energy of reactant and the threshold energy. So in the last class we have discussed something about your threshold energy, ETH. So what was the concept of threshold energy? It's the minimum amount of energy, okay, to be possessed by the reactant molecule so that a reaction can occur. Okay, so threshold energy is the minimum amount of energy, minimum energy that is to be possessed by, that is to be possessed by reactant, that is to be possessed by reactant molecule. Okay, so this was the concept. And what was ER? ER is the energy possessed by reactant. It was the energy possessed by reactant. It was the energy possessed by a reactant molecule. And we had also discussed that if the energy of reactant is less than threshold energy, then what will happen? In this case, no reaction occurs. We have discussed this. But yes, this reaction can be made to take place. This reaction can be made to take place provided we supply some additional energy from outside. Okay, and that additional energy which is supplied from outside is known as your activation energy. Okay, that means even if the energy of reactant is less than the threshold energy, the reaction can be made to occur provided we supply some additional energy from outside. And that amount of additional energy is known as your activation energy. So we have discussed earlier. Okay, so now what we are going to do is today we shall just derive a relation, or we'll get a relationship between the activation energy and rate of a reaction. So in order to explain this, I'll give you a simple analogy. Okay, so just you can relate, you can relate with this terms. Suppose again I have a person X. So I have a person, okay, X, and he wants to go to a party, and in order to enter the party, the entry fee is how much? Say rupees 2000. So that means what is the minimum amount of money needed to enter the party? It is rupees 2000. So yes, this can be related with your threshold energy. This can be related with the threshold energy. That means in order for this particular person to enter the party, the minimum amount of money which must be possessed by him is 2000. Okay, but if the energy possessed by this particular person is less than 2000, yes, will he be able to enter the party? So the answer will be no. So that means if the energy of reactant is less than the threshold energy, no reaction occurs. Okay, now this person, okay, so he took out all his saving and he saw that he had only rupees 500. This is the money possessed by this particular person. But how much do we need to enter the party? He needs 2000. But what amount does he have? He has only 500. Okay, that means this will be related with the energy of reactant. So I am giving you a simple example. We have a person X who wants to enter a party, but the minimum amount required to enter the party is rupees 2000. So we can relate this with the threshold energy. But at that particular moment, that particular day, this person X has only 500 rupees with him. Okay, so this is the energy of reactant. That means energy of reactant is less than threshold energy. So can this guy enter the party? The answer will be no. So someone has to lend him, suppose there is another person Y. This person Y has to lend him how many rupees? He has only 500 rupees. But in order to enter the party, he requires 2000 rupees. Fine. So additional amount of money which must be supplied to this person is rupees 1500. So this can be related with your activation energy. That means this is the amount which must be supplied from outside. Okay, so this can be related with the energy of reactant, and this can be related with your threshold energy. This is the minimum money required. This is the money possessed by this particular person X. Okay, this, and this is the money which must be supplied from outside. But we know 1500 is quite a big amount, so no one will let it easily. But that means when the activation energy is high, or when the money which needs to be borrowed is high, his chances of going to the party becomes low. That means we can also relate this with the energy. We can relate this with a chemical reaction. Means when the activation energy is high, the chances of reaction occurring is very less. The chances of reaction, the rate of a reaction will be very low. But if the money possessed by this particular person is 1800, how much does he need to borrow now? He needs to borrow only 200 rupees so that the total amount can become equal to 2000. So that means when the activation energy is low, so 200, we can easily lend him 200 rupees, but he will think twice before lending 1500. That is when the activation energy is high, his chances of going to the party is low. But here, yes, he can easily lend rupees 200. That means when the activation energy is low, his chances of going to the party becomes high. So I'm just giving you a simple example. So now tell me guys, what is the relationship between your activation energy and rate of a reaction? Okay, so now the equation is really simple. So if the activation energy is high, high activation energy means low rate of reaction, or the chances of reaction occurring is very less. But conversely, if the activation energy is low, then the chances of reaction occurring is very high. That means high rate of reaction. So do remember this. So activation energy is related to the rate of the reaction in this particular way. So high activation energy means the chances of reaction taking place is less, and low activation energy means the chances of reaction taking place is very high. So now in this particular segment, now we will discuss all these things graphically. We'll discuss all these things graphically. Okay, again we know that the threshold energy is equal to the energy of reactant plus your activation energy. Fine. Now let us consider a chemical reaction, say RP. Okay, and suppose this is the energy of reactant ER and this is the energy of product EP. Okay, this is the energy of reactant and this is the energy of product. Or energy can also be denoted by enthalpy. HR, this is the enthalpy of reactant and this is the enthalpy of product. Fine. Now, after the reaction occurs, the total change in enthalpy delta H will be given by HP final minus HR initial. The total change in energy, the total change in enthalpy is given by enthalpy of product minus enthalpy of reactant. Now we know that if HP is greater than HR, if HP is greater than HR, then the sign of delta H will be, positive. That means the reaction is endothermic. Thermodynamically, if the sign of enthalpy change is positive, the reaction is endothermic. So when is the reaction endothermic? When the enthalpy of product is greater than enthalpy of reactant. But if the enthalpy of product is less than the enthalpy of reactant, if HP is less than HR, obviously what will be the sign of delta H? The sign of delta H is going to be negative. And such reactions where delta H is negative are known as here exothermic reactions. They are known as a exothermic reaction. Fine. So depending upon the sign of delta H, the reaction can be classified as endothermic and exothermic. And the total enthalpy change in a chemical reaction is given by enthalpy of product minus enthalpy of reactant. So with this concept, we'll move forward now. Okay, with this concept, we'll move forward. Fine. So I'm erasing this. Now, say, suppose, again, I have the same reaction, reactant to product. Okay. Now, I'll just try to depict this graphically. Fine. So here I'll be plotting the energy. or in some books, the potential energy will be given out here. And here I'll be plotting the progress of reaction. In the y-axis, I'll just plot progress of reaction. Okay, I'll plot progress of reaction. Now, we have reactant out here, and suppose the energy of reactant is ER, fine, and we have product out here, and this is the energy of product. Now, from this graph, it is very much evident that the energy of product is greater than energy of reactant. The energy of product is greater than energy of reactant. So we are talking about what kind of reactions? Again, remember, what was delta H? Delta H was enthalpy of product minus enthalpy of reactant. So here we see the enthalpy of product is greater than enthalpy of reactant. So here we are talking about what kind of reactions? We are talking about endothermic reactions. We are talking about endothermic reactions. Okay, now we have discussed earlier that for a reaction to occur, for the reactant to change into product, the reactant molecules must overcome a certain energy barrier. The reactant molecules must overcome a certain energy barrier. It must overcome an energy barrier. Okay, and for any reaction to progress, okay, the reactant molecule must possess a minimum amount of energy known as a threshold energy. So here we see that in order for the reactant to get converted into product, it must overcome a certain energy barrier. So let us draw that graphically again. Fine. So in order for the reactant to get converted into product, it must overcome this energy barrier. It must overcome this energy barrier. Now see, what is the energy possessed by reactant? This is the energy possessed by reactant molecule, ER. So in order to progress from reactant to product, what is the total energy required? This is the total energy required. This much of energy needs to be possessed. If the energy of reactant is less than this energy, then no reaction occurs. And what will this energy be known as? This energy will be known as your threshold energy. That means the reactant must possess at least a minimum of this amount of energy so that it can get converted into product. But here we see that the energy of reactant is very much less than the threshold energy. Energy of reactant is less than the threshold energy. So here we see that no reaction will occur. The reaction is not going to take place. But yes, if we supply some additional energy from outside in the form of activation energy, if we supply some additional energy from outside in the form of activation energy, then reaction will occur. Okay, so total energy required is this much. Total energy required is this. This will be the total energy required. This is the total energy required. Out of this total energy, this much of energy is possessed by reactant. So the remaining amount of energy needs to be supplied from outside. And this remaining amount of energy which must be supplied from outside is known as your activation energy. This is known as your activation energy. Okay, the minimum amount of energy which needs to be supplied from outside is known as your activation energy. So please try to understand this graph. Okay, please try to understand this graph. So this graph is for the endothermic reaction. First of all, since the energy of product is greater than energy of reactant. Okay, so this difference in energy, yes, someone please tell me, what does this difference in energy depict? This is the energy of reactant, and this much is the energy of reactant. This is the energy of product. So this difference in energy gives us what? What does this give? This difference in energy, it gives us the value of delta H. It gives us the value of delta H. Energy of product minus energy of reactant. So the concept is really simple. Okay, for a reactant to change into product, it must overcome a certain energy barrier. That means it must possess a certain minimum of energy known as a threshold energy. But here we see the energy of reactant is less than the threshold energy. So this much of energy, the remaining amount of energy needs to be supplied from outside in the form of activation energy. Okay. So here we see a energy maxima out here. We see a energy maxima out here. Okay. So this energy maxima is known as a transition state. It is known as a transition state, and a complex which is formed out here is known as a activated complex. It is known as a activated complex. So I'll discuss this in the next segment. Okay, so what is a transition state? It represents the energy maxima. Okay, so it represents a transition between the reactant and the product. So as soon as the reactant overcomes this transition state, okay, it will get converted into product. It will get converted into product. So this is what the graph looks like for endothermic reaction. So you yourselves can try the graph for exothermic reaction. So what will be the nature of graph for exothermic reactions? For exothermic reactions, the energy of reactant will be greater and the energy of product will be lower. That's all. Okay, so you can give it a try for your exothermic reactions. Okay, so this was the concept of activated complex and your threshold energy. Fine. And we have discussed this graphically as well. So we see that in order for collisions to be effective, the reactant must overcome two barriers. The reactant must overcome two barriers. So what are the two barriers which the reactant must overcome? So one we had already discussed. One we have already discussed. It is known as the energy barrier, which we are discussing. Okay, and the other is known as your orientation barrier. So now let us discuss today about your orientation barrier. Orientation barrier. Now see, sometimes even if all the conditions are satisfied, that means the reactant has sufficient energy, say more than threshold energy, even then some reactions will not occur. Okay, because for a reaction to occur, for effective collision, the reactant molecule must overcome two barriers. Okay, so one is the energy barrier, which has already been discussed, and the other is known as the orientation barrier. So what is this orientation barrier? According to this concept, okay, according to this concept, for effective collisions, the reactant molecules must be properly oriented. Okay, so yes, the effective collisions also depends upon the orientation of reactant molecules. Okay, so now in order to explain this, let us consider a reaction. Okay, let us consider a reaction. Say the reaction between NO2 and CO to give say CO2 and NO. So let me consider this reaction. So if we look closely at this reaction, then we see that here there was carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide is formed, means an additional bond between oxygen and carbon has been created. Okay, when products are formed, one additional bond between oxygen and carbon has been created. Okay, so let us keep this in mind. So after the products are formed, one bond between carbon and oxygen has been formed. Okay, now NO2 is a triatomic molecule. So let me draw in this way. Okay, C and O. Fine. Next. Okay, so I'm drawing these two diagrams out here. Okay, so these are two different diagrams. Now, what I have told you, an additional bond between carbon and oxygen is formed. So here we see that in this first diagram, there is a collision between nitrogen and carbon. There is a collision between carbon and nitrogen. But do you think an additional bond between nitrogen and carbon is formed in the product? No. Okay, no bond between carbon and nitrogen is formed. So if these two atoms collide with each other, no bond formation will result, because we don't, in the products we see that no new bond is formed between carbon and nitrogen. So this type of orientation will be known as improper orientation. It's known as an improper orientation. Okay, so which two atoms must be collide? Which two atoms needs to be collided? One additional bond between carbon and oxygen is formed. So if there is a collision, if the molecules are oriented in such a way that collision between carbon and oxygen takes place, then bond formation between this carbon and oxygen can readily occur. So in the next diagram, we see that yes, carbon and oxygen atoms are colliding with each other. So this is a proper orientation. Okay, bond formation between carbon and oxygen now takes place readily. So this orientation will be known as a proper orientation. It's known as a proper orientation. Okay, so yes, the collisions to be effective, for reaction to take place, the reactant must overcome both these barriers, energy barrier as well as orientation barrier. The concept of orientation barrier is really simple. Okay, the reactant molecule must be properly oriented. So you have to look at the product, which bonds are being formed. So here a new bond between carbon and oxygen needs to be formed. So if the carbon and oxygen, if the molecules are oriented in such a way that if there is a collision between carbon and oxygen, we say it's a proper collision, which results in the formation of product. Okay, which results in the formation of product. So this is about your orientation barrier. Fine. So now the next topic which I'm going to discuss today is your effect of temperature on rate. Effect of temperature on rate. So more people are there. Effect of temperature on rate. Okay. So next topic is going to be effect of temperature on rates. So we have been discussing this earlier as well. So we know that as the temperature increases, the rate of a reaction will also increase. The rate of a reaction will also increase. We have discussed this previously. Now here we'll be discussing more in details. Okay. So it is seen that, okay, it is found that for every 10 degrees Celsius, for every 10 degrees Celsius rise in temperature, for every 10 degrees Celsius rise in temperature, the rate of most reactions, becomes almost doubled or sometimes tripled as well. Okay, so what is the effect of temperature? It is seen that experimentally that for every 10 degrees Celsius rise in temperature, the rate of most of the reaction becomes almost doubled or tripled. And this is defined by a parameter which is known as a temperature coefficient. Temperature coefficient. Okay, it's denoted by mu. So what is temperature coefficient? It is defined as the ratio of rate of a reaction at two different temperatures which differs by 10 degrees Celsius. So it is the ratio of rate of a reaction at two different temperatures which differs by 10 degrees Celsius. Now don't get confused, students. Here I'm telling rate, I'm writing rate constant. So I've insisted this earlier as well. Okay, this rate constant or velocity constant is a measure of rate of a reaction. Have we discussed this before? Yes, we have discussed time and again. We have been telling time and again that this velocity constant is a measure of rate of a reaction. Higher the value of velocity constant, higher will be the rate. So it's directly proportional to rate of a reaction. So don't get confused. So I can define the temperature coefficient as the ratio of rate or the ratio of rate constants at two different temperatures, which differs by how much? Which differs by 10 degrees Celsius. Here we see the temperature is T plus 10 and here the temperature is T. That means this is the ratio of two rate constant which differs by 10 degrees Celsius. Okay. And whenever there is a difference of 10 degrees Celsius, whenever the temperature is 10 degrees Celsius higher, we see this ratio is nearly 2 or 3. This ratio is nearly 2 or 3. So what is temperature coefficient again? It is defined as the ratio of rate, or it is defined as the ratio of rate constant, okay, at two different temperatures which differs by 10 degrees Celsius. And what is this value? Either 2 or 3. Right? So now the question obviously which comes to our mind is, why does this happen? Why there is a, when the reaction temperature is raised by 10 degrees Celsius, why the rate becomes almost double or sometimes triple as. So let us try to understand this again. Okay, so I think in your physics, I think you have learned something about your Maxwell's distribution of energies. Yes, have you studied? Tell me. Have you ever studied in physics? Have you studied about your Maxwell distribution of energies or Maxwell distribution of velocity? So now see, so let me start with a very simple concept. Okay, let me start with a very simple concept. Suppose I have a gas out here. I have a gas. Okay, suppose I have oxygen, nitrogen gas, whatever. Suppose I have a gas in a vessel. I have some gas in this vessel. Okay, and it's at a temperature of T degrees Celsius. All the molecules, they are at a temperature of T degrees Celsius. Now my question is, if someone can answer this, my question is whether all these molecules will have the same energy or no. Whether, my question is, we have a gas enclosed in a vessel and this vessel is at a temperature of T degrees Celsius. So the question is whether these molecules will have same energy or different energy. So what will be your answer? If anyone can answer that, what will be the answer? Will all the molecules have the same energy? Will they are at the same temperature? And from kinetic theory of gases, we know that, what have we studied in class 11? We have studied that the kinetic energy of molecule is directly proportional to the absolute temperature. That means temperature is a function of kinetic energies. Temperature is a function of kinetic energy. Okay, temperature is a function of kinetic energy. Means higher the temperature, higher will be the kinetic energy. Higher the temperature, higher is going to be the kinetic energy. Now, all the molecules, they are at the same temperature. So they should have more or less the same energy. So what will be the answer? Do all the molecules have the same energy? So the answer is no. Even if they are at the same temperature, all the molecules will not have the same energy. Okay, there will be a distribution of energy among the molecules. The energies will be distributed among the molecules in such a way that some fraction of molecules will have less energy, some fraction of molecules will have high energy, and a major fraction of molecules will have average energy. So there will be a distribution of energies, and that distribution of energies or that distribution of velocities is given by Maxwell's distribution of energies. It's given by Maxwell distribution of energies. Okay, so you'll study this in more details in your physics chapter. Fine. So we know that even if the gas is under identical condition, then all the molecules will not have the same energy. With this concept, we'll move forward. Okay. So what does the Maxwell curve look like? What does the Maxwell distribution curve look like now? Maxwell distribution curve. Okay, so try to understand. Try to understand. Fine. So here we'll be plotting fraction of molecules. Here we'll be plotting fraction of molecules, fine, and here we'll be plotting energy. Here we'll be plotting energy. Okay, so what will the curve look like? The curve will somewhat look like this. So let this curve be at here T °C. Now from this curve, it is clear that, okay, from this curve, it is clear that there are some fraction of molecules, which have less energy. There are some fraction of molecules which have high energy, and there are some fraction of molecules which have average energy. And we know for a reaction to take place, okay, the minimum energy that must be possessed by the reactant must be either equal to or greater than the threshold energy. Now let me mark this as here ETH. That means this much of energy needs to be possessed by the reactant for the reaction to occur. So now you tell me, what fraction of molecules will have energy greater than the threshold energy? These, the area under this curve, represents the fraction of molecules which have energy greater than threshold energy. That means only these molecules lying under this curve will give you product. They are effective in giving the product, not the molecules lying to the left of this. Okay, because these molecules have energy less than threshold energy. The molecules under this curve, unshaded portion of the graph, they have energy less than threshold energy, so they will not be effective in giving the product. So only the molecules within this shaded region have energy greater than threshold energy. So they will form the product. Now, if I increase the temperature, what will happen now? Suppose I am increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius. Now, from kinetic theory, I know that if I increase the temperature, the velocity of molecules will increase. The velocity of molecule will increase, and if the velocity of molecule increases, the kinetic energy of the molecules will also increase. That means if I go on increasing the temperature, more and more molecules will now have higher energy. Okay, and going on increasing the temperature means more and more molecules will now have higher energy. So if I increase the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, so what will happen? Now the curve will get flattened like this. The curve will get flattened. Okay, and this is the curve at T plus 10 degrees Celsius. Now, just let us concentrate on this curve. Now, what fraction of molecules, now let us look the curve at T plus 10 degrees Celsius. Let us look at this black curve now. Now, what fraction of molecules will have energy greater than threshold energy? Now, it is given by this shaded portion. Now, these fraction of molecules will now have energy greater than the threshold energy. Earlier at T degrees Celsius, only this fraction of molecules were giving you product. But after increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, what is happening? The number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy also increases. Okay, so if we compare these two areas, it is seen that the area at T plus 10 degrees Celsius, the shaded area at T plus 10 degrees Celsius is exactly double that of T degrees Celsius. That means if we put this into word, we can write down that on increasing the temperature, okay, on increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, the number of molecules having energy, okay, greater than threshold energy, okay, if we increase the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, then the number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy, okay, becomes almost doubled. Okay, so number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy almost becomes doubled. That is why the rate of the reaction also becomes doubled on increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius. So if the question comes, explain why the rate of a reaction becomes doubled on increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, what is going to be your answer? What are you going to write? The answer is on increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, the number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy almost becomes almost double. That is why the rate also becomes doubled or tripled. Okay, so if we can explain with the help of a graph, it will be very nice during your exam. So just remember, at T degrees Celsius, only these molecules had energy greater than threshold energy, red area. But on increasing the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, these molecules lying under this curve, and the area under this curve is nearly twice the area under this curve. That means the number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy is exactly doubled or triple to that at T degrees Celsius. So this will be the answer. So I think is it understood? So okay, so we have studied a very important topic. Why the rate becomes double? Now we know the rate becomes double because the number of molecules having energy greater than threshold energy also becomes almost doubled when you increase the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius. Okay, so this is all about your Maxwell's distribution curve. Fine. So from an exam point of view, this question is very important. It has come number of times. So please go through it. Okay. So this was the theoretical distribution, theoretical discussion of temperature on the reaction rate. So we shall also discuss this with the help of a very famous equation, which is known as a Arrhenius equation, which is known as a Arrhenius equation. Okay, so I think you have heard the name of this particular scientist, Arrhenius. Where did we hear his name? Class 11, yes, ionic equilibrium, Arrhenius concept of acid and bases. So what is the topic going on just now? The topic going on is your effect of temperature on rate. The topic going on is your effect of temperature on rate. Okay, so Arrhenius, he gave a mathematical relationship between the rate of a reaction and the temperature. He gave a mathematical relationship between the rate of a reaction and the temperature. Okay, so what is the mathematical expression? Mathematically, this Arrhenius equation can be written as K is equal to A e to the power minus EA by RT. Fine. So what is K again? What is small k? Again, we know K is a velocity constant. What is A? A is a constant known as a frequency factor. It's a constant known as a frequency factor. What is EA? Okay, we have learned EA is the activation energy. EA is the activation energy. What is R? R is the universal gas constant, and what is the value in energy? 8.314 joule per Kelvin per mole. Joule per Kelvin per mole. And T is the temperature in Kelvin. T is the temperature in Kelvin. Okay, so this is a very famous equation which is known as a Arrhenius equation. Now, if I bring this A in the denominator side, Ka, this will be equal to e to the power minus Ea by RT. So this term, it gives us the fraction of molecules it gives us the fraction of molecules having energy equal to your activation energy. So although it is not required much in your board level, okay, just remember that it gives us the fraction of molecules having energy equal to your activation energy. So let us concentrate more on this part. Let us concentrate more on this part. Okay. Now what I am going to do is I am going to take log both the sides. Taking log both the sides. Taking log both the sides. Fine. So what am I going to write down? Ln K equals to ln A e to the power minus EA by RT. So what is the formula of ln AB? What is the formula of ln B? Someone else tell me. What is the formula of ln AB? What is the formula of ln AB? It is ln A plus ln B.
ln A plus
ln
ln
B.
B.
Okay, fine. And what is the formula of ln A to the power x?
X ln A.
X ln A. X ln A. Very good. It will be x ln A. Now, what is the value of ln E? What is the value of ln E?
1.
The value of ln E is equal to 1. We know this. Okay, so let us simplify this. Ln K is equal to ln A minus EA by RT ln E. And what is the value of ln E? It is equal to 1. So after taking log both the sides, this equation reduces to ln K equals to minus EA by RT plus ln A. So this is what is very famously known as your logarithm form of your Arrhenius equation. Okay, so I'm just going to rub these terms. So do remember these terms out here. So let me rewrite the Arrhenius equation once more. So Arrhenius equation can be written as ln K equals to minus EA by RT plus ln A. It can be written in this. Now, how am I going to change this into log? How am I going to change ln into log? I know in order to change ln into log, I need to multiply by 2.303. Log K minus EA by RT plus 2.303 log A. Okay, so please do remember this equation. Now, if I divide both the sides by 2.303, then what will I get? If I divide both the sides by 2.303, so I'll get log K equals to, I'm dividing both the sides by 2.303. EA by 2.303 RT plus log A. So I'm dividing both the sides by 2.303. I'm dividing both the sides by 2.303. Okay, so the final equation which I'll get after dividing by 2.303 is this. So this is another form of Arrhenius equation. Fine. Chalo. Once more, yes, tell me guys, what is the topic going on actually? What is the topic going on? What am I discussing right now? What is the topic going on? Someone tell me. What are we discussing? What is the topic going on? What are we discussing right now? We are discussing the effect
Effect of
of.
temperature on rate.
That means if the temperature changes, will the rate change? Obviously, we have been discussing that. If the temperature changes, the rate changes. And nothing is mentioned about rate. Again, instead of rate, what is written out here? Rate constant. Again, the same concept. Okay, rate constant is a measure of rate. That means if the temperature changes, the rate constant will also change. if the temperature changes, the rate constant will also change. So now tell me, what are the two variables out here? In this equation, what are the two variables? If the temperature changes, the rate constant will change. So what are the two variables out here? What are the two
Temperature and
variables?
rate constant.
Exactly. So the two variables out here, very good. The two variables out here are temperature and rate constant. That means if I change the temperature, this rate constant will change. So this equation, I have identified the two variables out here. I have identified the two variables. Okay. So I have identified the two variables out here. So I'm going to rewrite this as 1 by t. Fine. So I can just write this as 1 by t. So it will be easier for me to understand. So what are the two variables out here? As I change temperature or 1 by t, your ln k will change. Here, as the temperature changes or 1 by t changes, your log k will change. So yes, this equation is in the form of y equals to mx plus c. Again, the same concept out here. So yes, we have identified the two variables. What are the two variables? 1 by t and ln k, or 1 by t or log k. So y is equivalent to ln k or log k. X is equivalent to 1 by t. So if ln k is plotted, the slope is equivalent to minus Ea by r. If log is plotted, the slope will be equal to minus Ea by 2.303 r. So let us plot now. Okay, so let us plot now. Okay, fine. So what will you do next? So now I'll plot ln k versus 1 by t. Yes, I'll get a straight line because this equation is in the form of straight line. But what slope? Is the slope positive or negative out here? What is the slope out here? Positive or negative? It has a negative slope.
Negative.
So, negative slope. So I'll get a straight line like this. Okay, as temperature increases, 1 by t will decrease. As temperature increases, 1 by t will decrease. Remember that, right? So don't confuse yourself, right? As temperature increases, ln k should increase. So we should get a graph like this. But here we are not plotting temperature, we are plotting 1 by t. As t increases, 1 by t decreases. Fine. Okay. So we'll get a straight line having a negative slope. So what is the slope given out here? What is the value of slope? Is equal to
Minus Ea by r.
minus Ea by r. Therefore, Ea will be equal to minus slope into r. And we know slope is given by tan of this theta. So again, this type of questions might come here. The value of OA might be given. The value of OB might be given. Okay. The value of OA and OB will be given. So what is the slope? Slope is equal to tan theta. Tan theta is perpendicular by base again. Slope means perpendicular by base. So if these values are given, yes, you can substitute out. And Ea is the activation energy. Ea is the activation energy. So remember, the units of R should be in energy. Okay, so most of the students are confused out. There are so many units of R. But here, Ea, what is Ea? Ea is the activation energy. So the unit of R should be in, the value of R should be in energy. 8.314 joule or 1.98 here. So what are the two values of R? The value of R is 8.314 joule per Kelvin per mole, and R is 1.98 calorie per degree Celsius per mole. Okay, you can use either these values or these values depending upon the numerical. Obviously, depending upon the numerical. Okay. So this is the graph if ln k is plotted against 1 by t. If ln k is plotted against 1 by t. Now instead of ln k, instead of ln k, if I plot log k, then suppose instead of ln k, if I plot log k, what will happen? Yes, the nature of graph will be same. So what will be different here then? What will be different here if I plot log k versus 1 by t? What is slope equivalent to in this case? I am plotting log k versus 1 by t. So what will the slope equal to?
minus
Slope
CA
will
by
be equal to,
03 R.
yes, what will come in the denominator now? 2.303 times r. So now this whole thing will become equal to the slope. So EA is equal to slope into r into 2.303. So yes, there is every chance that one particular question might come from this particular topic. So remember the graph, okay, remember the log form of a Arrhenius equation, and also remember the simple Arrhenius equation. What are the terms involved out here? Okay, so yes, Arrhenius equation is an equation which gives a mathematical relationship